Are you waiting for a positive pregnancy test to start preparing for the pregnancy, the birth, postpartum life? What if the best time to prepare is now, even before you conceive? Hello, beautiful people. This is Birthing in Faith, a podcast for Black Christian women. Welcome if it's your first time listening, and if you're a loyal listener, welcome back. I am really excited about this episode topic because I feel like it really just is one of the main things that I try to communicate with people. As a birth coach, as a doula, childbirth educator, I really love to just build a foundation that really helps people understand why we talk so much about birth. Okay, so imagine that you are about to make a big decision. Let's say you're about to make a big trip or a big journey of some sort. And you heard about it and you liked the idea and you wanted to do it. And so you just did it. You didn't consult anybody. You didn't ask anyone's opinion. You didn't even prepare. You just set forth and did it. You bought your ticket or you showed up at the place where you needed to go and you just did it. Do you really think that you'll be that successful? Finishing or completing this journey, maybe having a good experience with this journey? I would probably say most likely not. You might learn things along the way. You might meet people along the way that give you advice or show you maybe a quicker route to your destination or help you when you realize you set out for this task and you weren't ready mentally, maybe physically, maybe even emotionally. The reality is most people don't function like that. I think that especially now, this day and age, reviews and seeking out advice is common practice. We have the internet. We have access to so much information now that can really help us in whatever endeavor we're going forward with. And in general, we research and prepare for almost everything, even down to an Amazon purchase, way more than we prepare for birth and motherhood. I'm just going to be honest and say it. I see how we give so much thought and preparation to our schooling, our careers, buying a car, buying a house, buying a cell phone. We are like going online. We're going to YouTube. We're going to other people that we know and asking for opinions. We're asking about the specs. We are getting these professionals to show us the ropes before we do it so that when we get into that arena, we are as prepared as possible or we make the best decisions as we can. Like, can you imagine if you bought a house without talking to your realtor about the pros and cons of the area you're looking at, the type of house you want, if you didn't get an inspection, like all these things that require support, education, information. The vast majority of us would never enter into something so big and so life-changing without help and support. But yet, almost every day, parents are born with almost no preparation and no support. And it truly blows my mind how we can go into such a pivotal, life-changing experience on all fronts and not put in the work to have this support, preparation, or even just understanding of the process that our bodies are going to go through. And sidebar, I do believe that it is a flaw of our healthcare system and in general that makes it very difficult for us to have that inherent understanding that we need support and we need this village. It's not an undertaking that is easy and simple to go through. If you want more information about that, go back to episode 3 of this podcast where I talk a little bit more about how we got here as a country and how birth and the culture around it has shifted and changed over like the last 150 years. But nonetheless, if we know that we have a flaw in the healthcare system, it really is our responsibility to do the work to get our support and create a cushion around us that is not going to be provided otherwise. And quite honestly, we've been receiving quote unquote childbirth education our whole lives. we just never signed up for it. We've been inundated with images and scenarios and even just stories. On the topic of birth and postpartum, you have seen something on TV, in a movie, maybe a story from a family or a friend that has subconsciously shaped how you feel about birth and motherhood. And I'm just gonna guess that in general, it's not a positive feeling. Please hear me when I say it's so important to start the preparation even before conceiving. I know, before you even have the 2 lines on your pregnancy test, you should be thinking about and preparing for what your birth experience is going to be like, for what your postpartum experience is going to be like. And I'm gonna tell you why. First of all, like I said, we've all been somehow educated on what birth is, and it's probably a miseducation. So it's so important for us to get the facts about birth and pregnancy and postpartum, and then also deal with the subconscious negative feelings that we have about it. Reversing these negative connotations is not overnight. It's not done in one class. It's a process that you really have to work through. And I'm telling you, it's so beneficial to do before your body is going through all these changes and emotions and feelings. Preparing in advance also helps you have proper expectations for what's to come. Like I said, your body is going to be changing. You're going to be having drastic shifts in hormones and your emotions and your thoughts, how you view life. And this preparation is going to actively work towards you having a positive birth experience, which ultimately reduces the risk of trauma. And just ultimately, it gives you time. It takes so much time to learn about birth and parenting. And at most, when you find out you're pregnant, you'll probably have 8 months to prepare. For some people, way less. But on top of that, life does not stop. Pregnancy is such a vulnerable time, and in order to protect your peace, it's just wise to start learning in advance. Thinking through who, what, when, where, how is so much easier when there's not a deadline on it. And I just want to speak to my personal experience. I've been learning about pregnancy and birth for about 8 years now, and I've been teaching childbirth education for 4 years. When I became pregnant, there was still so much for me to learn. Considering where I was in life, what I wanted and desired for me, for my child, a lot of things to think about and consider. I realized I had been super prepared mentally, physically, all that for pregnancy and birth, but I had little preparation for postpartum and baby care, except for medical care, because obviously I'm a nurse. I knew how to do that, but the day-to-day caretaking, I had to learn. My pregnancy came at the hardest time of my life. I was constantly in the hospital or about 30 minutes away from my house, caring for my mom, and all these things that I had planned that I wanted to do in my pregnancy and to prepare for birth, I wasn't able to do. But I just made a list of the things that were most important to me, and I tried my best to make sure I got those done. And I just had to trust the Lord with the rest. I really felt supported and cared for in my pregnancy, and I honestly attribute that to, one, the goodness and the grace of God, but also my preparation that I did in advance. And you know what? The things I didn't know, I knew who to ask for help. Again, you don't have to bear the mental load of doing all the research. Like, that's impossible. You can't know everything. And honestly, you shouldn't know everything, because that increases your anxiety. When I tell you, being a nurse, being a labor and delivery nurse at that, made it really hard to work through all the possible negative things that could happen for me and my baby. I tried really hard to just take it day by day, and if anything came up, I knew who the expert in that area was. The majority of the women that I talk to about birth, just casually, when I ask them about their experience, a lot of times I'm hearing that it was traumatic. And these women are wishing that they did things differently. And they plan to do things differently for their next child, if there is a next child, because honestly, sometimes the trauma and the experience of birth the first time is enough to be like, nah, I don't want to do this again. I wonder how different these experiences could be if they weren't like scrapping around during pregnancy, trying to piece together information, randomly going to YouTube or social media to try to learn what they need to know, but if they actually had that foundation beforehand. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a firm believer that it's never too late to get education or support when it comes to pregnancy and motherhood. Building a village is something that we're doing constantly all the time. And so this is not to say that if you're already pregnant, it's too late. I'm just wondering and posing this question, like, how can we do this better, y'all? I think within the Black culture, especially in the realm of health and wellness, we're real comfortable with just getting by. We're okay with good enough. And I see glimpses of the shift in our generation, and especially in Gen Z. And it's my heart's desire for that momentum to keep going. What if you or your loved ones could be thriving? Really imagine flourishing and what that would look like for you and your family. What's stopping you from pursuing that reality? I know that there are actual real situations that could be, putting barriers and obstacles in our way, but I want to encourage you to start. No matter where you are, start by praying and asking God, how can I be preparing for my future family? I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what stage that you're in. You could be single, chilling, you could be married and waiting to have kids in the future, currently trying. You could be pregnant right now. You could even have had your baby a year ago. But you could still be preparing for your future family. Even if it comes down to an unexpected pregnancy, how much more confident would you feel if you were already prepared for what's to come? And so really consider, are you waiting for a positive pregnancy test to start preparing for the pregnancy, the birth, postpartum life? What if the best time to prepare is now, even before you conceive? I hope this really got you thinking about things that you never considered before. As I continue this podcast, I'll be bringing in some birth workers to speak to their areas of expertise so we can also just continue learning how can we prepare for pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and the things that come with it. If you would like to talk more about this, please, please, please hit me up on TikTok or Instagram. You can also go to my website and set up a consultation, and we can see how we could possibly work together. If you enjoyed this podcast, please send it to your friend, and also go ahead and subscribe so you can be notified of the next episode. All right, love y'all. Until next time.